Here we go. Yeah, now we're in live. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today with us. My name is Patricia Brito. I'm from Federal University of Bahia, and I'm hosting today a workshop that we'll have about the Open Data Kit and the KoboToolbox. It's going to be presented by Godwin, which is he's a researcher at Warwick University. And just to contextualize a little bit, this workshop is part of Community Mapping online event. We are having a series of workshops during this month and last month. And we also have at the end of this month a very nice discussion and also find out more about community mapping experiences. So we all invite you to join us also at the other activities of this event. So not to take too long, I would just pass the word to Godwin. Godwin, if you can please introduce yourself, and thank you very much for being here with us today, sharing your experience.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Godwin Yeboah. I'm a senior research fellow at the Institute for Global Sustainable Development, based at the University of Warwick in the United Kingdom. So the title of my presentation is, as you can see already, Open Data Kit for Informal Urban Community Mapping, an introduction and perspective from the project. The logos of our collaborators regarding the project I will talk about in this presentation are shown below on the screen, and then the main funder for the project is at the top right corner. So before I continue, I would like to put out a disclaimer, indicate that this presentation is for information purposes only and does not represent legal advice or views from any organization or group mentioned. Also, the views and opinions expressed are those of myself, the presenter. So as an overview of this presentation, I will give an introduction to Open Data Kit, or ODK, before talking about an ongoing project in which ODK has been used. I will then give an overview of an OpenStreetMap-based mapping framework being used in the project and highlight the areas in the framework where ODK has been used. I will then show an example of one of the ODK-based questionnaires used in the project and related raw data collected using that instrument. I'll end with some closing remarks. So let's get on. So what is Open Data? What is Open Data Kit? Open Data Kit, normally referred to as ODK, is a sort of open source tools for mobile data collection and management. The tools are designed and optimized for use with Android operating smartphones or tablets for data collection, but it can work with Apple and Microsoft devices. These tools being open source means that they are free to use. However, you may incur some cost depending on which hosting or internet service you are using. ODK has common language based on XML and a common standard based on X forms. So XML is an abbreviation for Extensible Markup Language. It defines how to structure a file in order to make it easily readable to humans and machines alike using tags. XML is used as a framework or a set of rules based on which more explicit languages, which in turn further define the tags. An example in this context is XForm, which is a World Wide Web consortium specification, further defines and details how XML can be used for data collection. XForm includes key tasks representing question types and logical operations such as skip patterns in a survey questionnaire. Many researchers and humanitarian organizations have opted to use ODK-based solutions because it saves time and avoids duplication of efforts. As shown in the diagram on your right, ODK works well with other open source technologies such as KoboToolbox. Actually, KoboToolbox is based on ODK technology, just that it has also additional other additional components. Another open source tool based on ODK technology is OpenMapKit, which was used in our project. OpenMapKit launches directly from OpenDataKit application when used, or when any OpenStreetMap-based question type is enabled in a survey. The downloads of ODK can be accessed via a GitHub platform. It's possible to contribute to the software development on the platform. The tools have been written in Java, JavaScript, and Python. I read somewhere that also that ODK as a brand is now forming a new umbrella organization called Data Software for Social Good. There are two types of ODK that I'm aware of. So we have the ODK and then ODKX. ODKX is the latest set of tools. In our project, ODK, which is an earlier version, was used. Excuse me. The following are components of ODK. So we have ODK SLS form, and ODK build, which are used for creating ODK form for surveys. SLS form is a form standard created to help simplify the authoring of forms in Microsoft Excel. The SLS form is then converted to an ODKX form, or simply ODK form, for later use with other ODK tools. ODK Collect is a mobile app based on Android, which is used to load ODK form for surveys in the field. ODK Aggregate, ODK Central, and ODK Briefcase are server tools and operates at the back end. There is also ODK Sensor application for mobile data collection with wired and wireless sensors that submit the data to the mobile device and collect the data on the mobile device. There are more to these components, I must say, but I think time will not permit this presentation to go into details of each. So I have provided links for further investigation if they are of interest to you. I'll try and focus on some basic steps for using the ODK tools, as well as creating Excel form based on XLS form specification later. The following are the main steps that you will need to go through to use ODK tools for a survey. First, you need to get ODK Central Server, or if using the previous technology, ODK Aggregate Server. The easiest way to get a central server is by using ODK Cloud, which provides regular feature updates and guaranteed support. If you're technical and prefer to self-host, you can install ODK Central on DigitalOcean, for example. Next, you need to get an ODK Collect app. The easiest way to get the ODK Collect app is to download it from the Google Play Store. You can also install manually from an Android package kit, APK. And then you have to create a form with XLS form specification and upload it to the ODK Central Server. Or in our project, we use the ODK Aggregate Server, as said before. So here you can create a document in your favorite spreadsheet tool, for example, Excel, Google Sheets, etc. The Excel form would have to be converted to ODK form file or ODKX. The next is to load the form into ODK Collect from the ODK Central Server. To do this, you would need to first find or create an app user in the Central Server, open ODK Collect on your Android device. An interface similar to the one shown on the slide will be displayed. And then you have to configure the app to connect to the ODK Central Server using the menu at the top right corner there, as shown with one of the red arrows. Once the server is connected, you can load your questionnaire form on the server by selecting Get Blank Form. And then you fill out the form and upload it to the central server. To do this, you have to first select Fill Blank Form to complete a survey, and then select Send Finalized Form to upload your completed survey to the central server. So in order to see your completed survey results, you have to log back into the server, central server for that. Or you can basically just use one of the other tools, ODK briefcase, to pull the results, which I'll show an example later. I would like to now talk about creating an Excel form based on XLS form specification. So the example on this slide shows a simple survey questionnaire based on XLS form specification with the aim of using it for a store survey to capture respondents' gender, name of the store, and spatial location of the store using an OpenStreetMap question type and tags using a OpenMap kit. So the red arrows are pointing to how the labels will appear in ODK Collect app. That's like up on the screen, yeah. Basically, each Excel workbook usually has two worksheets. You have the survey and the choices worksheets. A third and fourth, and probably more optional worksheets are also possible. So you can have like a settings worksheet or OSM worksheet, which I think I've put it here also on the slide, which I will show some of the content there. The survey worksheet gives your form its overall structure and contains most of the content of the form. It contains the full list of questions and information about how they should appear in the form. Each row usually represents one question. However, there are certain other features that you can add to the form to improve the user experience. The survey worksheet has three mandatory columns. We have the type column, name column, and then label column. And the type column specifies the type of entry you are adding, the question type in this case, or the name column specifies the unique variable name for that entry. No two entries can have the same name. Names have to start with a letter or underscore. Names can only contain letters, digits, hyphens, underscores, and periods. Names are and they're also case sensitive. The label column contains the actual text you see in the form or on the screen, on the smartphone, the screen of the smartphone, when doing the survey. Alternatively, you can also label translation columns, or you can add other columns to translate whatever language you're using or the text you're using to another language, or the text appearing to another language. So you might have noticed that some rows or questions do not have labels in this case. These are questions that are not presented on screen for manual response. They are options available for metadata collection. For example, start in row 2 means that you want to record the start date and time of the survey from the tablet or smartphone being used. The columns you add to your Excel workbook, whether they are mandatory or optional, may appear in any order. Optional columns may be left out completely. Any number of rows may be left blank. All Excel file formatting is ignored, so you can use dividing lines, shading, and other font formatting to make the form more readable in terms of the designing it. The choices worksheet is used to specify the answer choices for multiple choice questions. Each row represents an answer choice. So answer choices with the same list name are considered part of a related set of choices and will appear together for a question. This also allows a set of choices to be reused or multiple questions to be reused for multiple questions. For example, like yes or no questions. One thing to keep in mind when authoring forms in Excel is that the syntax you use must be precise. For example, if you write choice as in the name of the worksheet, instead of choices, the form won't work. In this example, the gender types are listed with one answer choice option only. Multiple option selection is possible, but one has to allow this in the survey worksheet, the previous worksheet that I showed, using appropriate question type. The OSM worksheet is used to specify OpenStreetMap type question choices in ODK forms. The list name defines the set of tags that OpenMap kit will add to an OSM feature, OpenStreetMap feature. The values in the name column are the tag keys that are recognized in OSM. However, you can use your own tag keys if you are only interested in storing the information onto the server only, and not like migrating it to OpenStreetMap with own keys. The values in the label column are the labels that will be presented to the user when entering values for the given OSM tag. It's also possible to record building location as point or polygon. In this case on the screen, this is being recorded as point. So I'll talk a little bit about the project in which we use the ODK technology. So the title of the ongoing project is National Institute for Health Research, Global Health Research Unit on Improving Health in Slums at the University of Warwick. The project is led by Professor Richard Littlefold, who is currently based at the University of Birmingham. The goals are to map health services and facilities and understand how these are used in slums across Asia and Africa. To build on these maps to identify costs associated with how health services run in each site, to build models of health services and use these models to look at ways of improving health services delivery. And throughout these goals, we are collating existing evidence and also involving people who can change things in slums. The duration of the project is approximately about 4 years, ending in October this year and costing over £5 million. There are five partners in the project, 2 in Asia, 2 in Africa, with the lead institution being the University of Warwick. We are mapping 7 slums across 4 countries. And this project, there are 5 work packages designed to address the goals of the unit, cutting across geospatial mapping, household survey, evidence synthesis, health economics, and stakeholder engagement. And the results in this presentation is mostly drawn from work package 1, which is about geospatial mapping of slums. Professor Joao Porto de Albuquerque, who is the lead investigator for the work package 1. The diagram here illustrates an overview of our OpenStreetMap-based data collection approach. I will not go into much detail here. So I would say that the first step involves preparation of activities such as securing access to the study sites and creating collaborative mapping platforms. The online mapping stage involves using the mapping platform to conduct training sessions and mapathons to achieve complete digitization of the areas. The online validation stage involves correcting any errors identified during the online mapping stage by experienced mappers. And the GPS field mapping stage involves using handheld GPS trackers to track footpaths and road networks in the area, with the aim of validating what has already been mapped and also densifying the network. The collected data is used to update the OpenStreetMap database at the GPS visualization stage. We then use printed field papers to verify the structure geometry in the field while recording the unique structure code and taking field notes using a tablet and Open Data Kit tools and OpenMap Kit. All sensitive data were stored in our Warwick Open Data Kit aggregate server. Only data declared public by respondents were uploaded to OpenStreetMap database. We ended the field activities with 3 surveys using the collected spatial data. So these surveys are like household health survey, healthcare facility survey, and in-depth household survey. The diagram here, in a way, illustrates an overview of the Open Data Kit based components in the data collection framework I've just talked about. First, ODK Collect with OpenMap Kit and ODK Aggregate were used to capture field nodes and data during the structure verification survey. And all the survey components used, all the survey components in this sense, those that I've highlighted in blue, used ODK Collect and ODK Aggregate server to conduct the surveys. This is an example of an Excel form designed and used for building structure verification survey and capturing field notes. I will not go through all the details shown here. As indicated earlier, the specification for designing an Excel form like this can be found using the SLS form specification. Some of the things to note in designing such forms is that you can use more than one language and keep one as default. In this example, we have both English and Bangla languages. We found it easier using question codes for the name column. For example, if we have a question coded as Q801, then this code is used in the name column. Also, where response to a question is mandatory, there is, as part of the SLS specification, there is a parameter called required, which can be used to ensure this. It's also possible to preload list of unique codes for data collectors or interviewers. So you can have the interviewers' names also even preloaded, just to facilitate the survey work. But then I would say that this is possible using the choices worksheet. Although the settings worksheet is optional, we found it useful to provide a unique number for every instance of the form used to collect data. The instance code can be linked to a question in the survey's worksheet. We also encrypted the ODK forms to adhere to data protection laws. This can be done using public key parameter in the settings worksheet and keeping the private key to yourself. In such encryption, if such encryption is used, the private key will be needed when pulling data from the server after the field work. In terms of using OpenStreetMap type questions, we used only the building tags to capture our own structure ID, which was saved only in the server, not in OSM database. This is an example of some of the raw data from the structure verification survey. The data was pulled from the ODK aggregate server using ODK briefcase tool. The raw data contained the responses in comma-separated file format, CSV file format, which is accompanied by a folder called media. The media folder contained the responses to the OpenStreetMap type questions. So the OpenStreetMap files in the media folder were merged using a program called Java OpenStreetMap Editor, JOSM, to get the special component of the responses. In closing, I would say that Open Data Kit is very useful for conducting community mapping and surveys in a cost-effective way. Using Open Data Kit with Open Map Kit for data collection is convenient for surveys that require some special components and do not find use of GPS locations of structures appropriate. This approach will require careful handling of both apps during data collection. The recommendation is that ODKX is used in future surveys because ODKX offers more flexibility and complex workflows, and of course, it's the latest version. So certainly, a lot of things have been enhanced. It is important to think about the cost for hosting and the central server, which may range from about $159 per month, depending on whether you are using ODK Cloud Service or installing your own ODK Central Server. It is important to test very well the survey instruments before conducting the field work. The next two slides show just my contact information and other information. So I'll just go through that and say that thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. It was great presentation, and a lot of things that we can learn from there. There's a lot of things that we're like, oh my God, that's a lot more.
Yeah, information overload.
yeah. But I thought it was very interesting, and I have a question. I put it here in the chat, but I'll ask this question first, and then open to other people that might want to ask something. You showed a possibility to have the tag, right, and with the OpenStreetMap tags, where the person that is going on field can choose from OpenStreetMap tags to say what is that structure. I was wondering if necessarily we need to tell them what are the possibilities of answering that question, or if the platform can connect straight to OpenStreetMap or database and give all possibilities for whoever is answering. Was that clear?
Yeah, I think it's like I'm seeing like twofold question. Yeah, so there's a possibility of let me think, connecting. So you mean directly connecting it to OpenStreetMap database online, right?
Yeah, or because it's always changing, right? But yeah, it's having the possibility of choosing from any of the tags that your OpenStreetMap already use.
Oh yes,
Make
yes,
it more
that is
open.
possible. Yes, that is possible. And in fact, that is why you need I think typically I tried including Open Map Kit or the OSM because we used it and we found it very interesting. But I mean, if you take just the typical conventional ODK technology, I would say that the Open Map Kit is a built on, like add-on, So in essence, I think in ODK you can also just use use the maps from OpenStreetMap within the app. You can just have a baseline base map, and then just have some points there. But you might have to code them very well, or you might have to. But then it's just a base map, right? But I think that is possible. You can also link. Even the one that I've shown, this example, is already. I think you saw the baseline there. So there was a node on a building, but the baseline was also there. The base map was also there OpenStreetMap base map was also there. So in essence, it's already connected directly. But then this is coming from just the ODK Collect app, and in this case, you also need internet connection, and at times, you have to cache the the map, and then zooming in and zooming out at times can be very tricky. Just imagine data collectors in the field, especially in an area where the sun is very hot. It can be a bit difficult. So in our case, we worked offline in the field by we downloaded the data from OpenStreetMap after we had updated the OpenStreetMap database online. We downloaded it as tiles, and then we put that in the app, the ODK Collect app, as a map, as a base map. But there's also a possibility to also use vector tiles. So that means that it acts like a base map, but also you can actually select the buildings. Instead of just putting a dot, you can actually select the building as part of the survey as a response. That is also possible.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Somebody else who wants to ask anything? I have another question, but I'll try not to be the only one interacting.
Am I okay to jump in? Hi, everybody. Loved your presentation there, Godwin. That was so interesting. And I've seen ODK around, I've seen the name, but I've never sort of got to see it in that much detail. So it brought a lot of clarity, and it was just super, super interesting. So thanks for that. At the beginning of the presentation, you just mentioned that there's obviously costs involved in servers and stuff. So you can develop your own in-house server, or you can use the cloud server that they offer as well. Can you couple it with different servers? So could you use a server that's maybe based on Azure or Microsoft or something like that? Do you know if it's compatible, or does it have to be ODK Cloud or something that you develop yourself?
Yes. So that's the the other option that I pointed out. So the ODK Cloud, I think, is from this ODK group, these developers. But then there is also, if you're, like you, that if you're technical, in this sense, then you can. I think the option they suggest they recommend is the DigitalOcean. So you can use DigitalOcean to host the server. So the server is still a tool there. Like in our case, we have our own server. So we use we just installed the ODK aggregate server. The latest is ODK Central, I think. There, so you can use that. I think in any server, any hosting service, you can use that. I think.
So did you? Sorry, just a second question, just added on to that, and then I'm finished. But did you? So Warwick, when you say you had your own server, do you mean you kind of downloaded the ODK server and put it into the Warwick server, or did you just host the ODK server on the computers at Warwick?
Oh yeah, so that's there's a bit is a bit tricky there, because I think we had the issues. There are also other issues from the implementation of that. I think ODK, there were issues about. I think in our case we used the services from DigitalOcean for this particular project. For the installation of the server. So it wasn't ODK Cloud, yeah.
Great. Philip, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Godwin, for this presentation. It's great to see these details. I have a question. So, communities, are they continuing to use this for their own purposes as well in the different places?
So when you say they continue to use this for their own purposes, any of the tools you mean?
That the communities are continuing to use these tools, they for their own to create their own data in future.
Oh yes. There's a possibility for doing that. The internet is free to use, so that's very good. They can use that. Most these days, even including informal communities where we worked, most of them have smartphones and things like that. So it should be very easy for them to, for example, download ODK Collect from Google Play Store, and collect data. I think in the previous versions they were even using Google Drive to do that. It's all about, I think also you have to consider security. In our case, because for the surveys, there was sensitive information that we're collecting, especially for the household survey, and looking at the GDPR, data protection laws and things like that. You can't just use any. For example, you can't even just use any server, irrespective of how secure it is. You have to be very careful about that in the research environment. But then for the community, I think they can also decide to do whatever they want to do. I think even it might be possible to even use I've not explored this further that much, but it's possible to use ODK Collect on the just with a smartphone, collect the data, and so everything will be on the smartphone, and then you can, I think, use USB also. So my point is, it might be possible to do that without the server. That's what I'm trying to say. So because the cost there, might be quite a constraint factor for some communities who are resource constrained. But of course, it needs careful planning for this.
So that means in terms of workflow, they would first map on OpenStreetMap, or they would complement, and then map with, and then add the details with ODK.
So it depends on what they want to collect. If, for example, they want to just collect, like the example I gave about the store survey, the simple example, if you want to just collect information about stores, their locations, and maybe what they are selling or something like that, then it's just a matter of even if, for example, the store location is not, you don't want that precise, like for the location, you don't want a precise location for that. You could even just use the GPS functionality in the smartphone, and then in that case, probably you can even use just ODK collect without even OpenMapKit. I mean, talking about OpenStreetMap data and things like that. You can use OpenStreetMap still as a baseline, in ODK to do everything. But if you want more structure precise survey where you're also thinking of contributing to the data, to the public for public use, then I think using OpenStreetMap is also quite useful. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Godwin. I have one more question. Because you presented here many possibilities behind what to build the questionnaire and everything from this Excel form, which is very nice, and I hadn't had the experience before. But I had the experience to build a questionnaire form using the KoboToolbox, and it's very powerful and very simple in a way. But I do not know, I haven't used the OpenMapKit that you mentioned. So my question is, do you think if a community member wants to build up their form, I know using the Excel is not the best approach, but what would be the best approach to do that themselves? Or you think it's maybe it's too complicated, they might need help of some researcher or any specialist?
There's one that I wanted to really talk about, but I decided just to mention it, which is the components. You have the ODK build. So the ODK build allows you to do something similar to KoboToolbox, the one you just described. So it's online interface where you can actually define your questions and everything and export as XLS form. Doing just like, overcoming this complexity about using Excel form, for example, you can just go online, use ODK build, which is similar to KoboToolbox in a way, but it gives you the interface where you can just drag and drop, for example, a question, a test, but then you still have to have this understanding of the XLS form specification to do this. But you can also use KoboToolbox because I said KoboToolbox is also based on ODK technology, so you can also use that to sort of build or design the questionnaire, and then you can use it to design the question and then use ODK or even KoboToolbox app to do the survey. So that is also possible. But when you want to really do complex stuff, like in terms of the questions, the how to design, then I think these tools then become very limited because they are very, in essence, I think from my experience, they are very basic in terms of designing the questionnaires.
Just to know a little bit more about the OpenMapKit, you can also build the form over there?
Yeah, the OpenMapKit, no, you can't. It's just, in this case, it behaves like just the app that reads the form, like the ODK Collect. So you have ODK Collect, which is an app, but it can only work if you have the form already designed and then converted into what they refer to as ODKX form, or let's say ODK form format, or the format that it's readable. So similar to you have Excel application, you need to have Excel file format, or the .xls or something like that to read that into the application. So you need such thing to make it readable in ODK Collect. So you need also something similar for OpenMapKit. Actually, you can also define do everything in even OpenMapKit. You can do all the, in terms of, you can start with maybe the spatial aspect or the questions, or even do almost everything in OpenMapKit. I recall even testing when I was doing some tests. I recall using KoboToolbox, for example, to load the ODK form that I've designed with Excel after I had converted it to ODKX form, and KoboToolbox was also reading it. I mean, KoboToolbox app was also reading that, so there are so many ways. I remember also during teaching, we were able to use, I think KoboToolbox together with these specifications, but then we used it on Apple device, and it worked well, but not necessarily like ODK collect, but then it worked. We found a way that it was working. So there are so many ways that you can work around that. But I tried. I think the challenge, as you've seen here, there are a lot of components, and I think the challenge was which one to present and to keep to time and all sort of things. So that was quite challenging.
Yeah, I think one of the things of these workshops is that we find out that are not enough.
Exactly,
we need to keep going, and then every time there's a workshop, we're like, oh my God, we need to know more about that and that. So don't worry, it's happening with everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I don't know if anybody has another question. I can get back to Godwin to your final thoughts, and we can see everyone at the next workshop. So Godwin.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, everybody. That was so interesting, Godwin. Thank you again.
Thank you, Godwin. Are you having any final thoughts, Godwin, you want to share with everyone? Or that's all for today?
Well, I think my final thoughts, those that I've already, I think in my closing remarks, I think the best, if you're interested in these tools, we've talked about most of them, and I think the best is to, consider a lot of things like, it's very convenient, effective way of doing data collection, and even at a community level. So if anybody is interested in using ODK technology, I would certainly recommend it. From my experience, I think it's very useful, and it's very, very cost effective. But then I think it would also be useful if the ODKX is actually explored further, because I understand it's more flexible. And for those who are really interested in complex workflows in terms of the questionnaire, looking at, for example, visualizing data whilst it's in the field, while they are still collecting the data and visualizing on time, real time, things like that. I think ODKS might be very useful for that. But then, if it has to be something very simple, then of course, KoboToolbox is the easiest way to go. ODK collect, ODK build, for example, is the easiest way to go in terms of easily, quickly designing your form and collecting some data. But in any way, if you're designing your form, you certainly have to understand what you're collecting. And especially, one thing also that I want to say is it's very important to test the whole cycle before you go to the field. Like, you design it, you collect some samples, check the data, whether it's actually what you're getting, and really, go through it, do some role playing before actually going to the field. I think that's all that I would say about that.
Great, very important. Lots of different things and very important things that you mentioned. Thank you again for being with us today. Thank you for everyone that was watching us, and we'll see you soon, probably next week or at the end of the month at our webinar. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.